What's going on? Welcome back to the channel. So today we're going to talk to you about SoFi. I want to go over some of the data points, break it down on what really moved it, and go over everything else you need to know. But first, make sure to hit that thumbs up. And with that, let's get right to it. So SoFi did close in the green, 3.39%, 26.63 the low, 28.45 the high, and 56.5 million shares being traded. So when it came down to the morning, it was a little bit more of a sketchy start, even in fact during the pre-market, because of the data. So we did have ADP weekly coming in at negative 13,000. PPI was all right, so it came in at 0.3, forecast of 0.5. But the market's not really concerned over a lot of the inflationary data points. Rather, it's concerned over labor. And unfortunately, a lot of the labor was kind of crappy today. But so ADP, not great. Retail sales came in lower than the forecast. And then also consumer confidence came in at 88.7 versus 94.2. So as a byproduct, you had a little bit more of a iffy start. So some institutions were actually selling based on this information. And then interestingly enough, we had some research firms come out, say, hey, you know what? Hold on. This is actually good for kind of to justify a rate cut. Maybe we need to buy the dip. And conveniently, that's what kind of the market listened to. So market's comical, but nonetheless, now we do have an 84.3% likelihood of a 25 basis point cut. So most likely it looks as though that we're going to be getting that. So that'd be a pretty good catalyst in my opinion. Today, there was no news from SoFi, no SEC filings. We did get a new rating, and that was done by Matthew, who has a 29% success rating from Truist, and they lowered their rating from 29 to 28. And for those of you that remember my weekend video, I did say that most likely we're going to get some ratings, potentially leaning more bearish, just feeding off of the broader market's negativity. And possibly it could be said that some of these ratings are going to be put out to manipulate the stock price, in my opinion. So what do I know, right? Matthew, on the side note, does have a 29% success rating, like I said, and makes about 150,000. So again, comparing their success to a YouTuber's, I don't know. So you guys do your own due diligence when it comes down to that. But nonetheless, 27.27 is that average price target over the last 3 months from all the ratings, and that does represent a 3.74% downside. So don't be surprised if you see some of the bearish ones. So Compass Point, Morgan Stanley, KBW, potentially reiterate their negative stance sometime this week, just to, again, throw a wrench into SoFi. But nonetheless, when it comes down to shorts, they did really throw everything they had at SoFi. So they did increase 4.97 million shares, 9.96% of the free floats being shorted, works out to be 118.02 million shares overall being shorted. Cost to borrow minimum is negative, so 0.13%. So that does mean that there are still brokers out there paying people to short SoFi. But then again, that's kind of just normal now. And I feel like even generally, I have a lot of different YouTube channels. This is starting to occur more and more. Initially, like in 2024, this was just like a sole SoFi and a couple other heavily shorted stocks. Like it only happened with those. Now it seems to be happening with almost everyone, even Tesla. So there is definitely some sketchiness happening in the broader market. But aside from that, looking at the options, we had 51 million in calls, 11 million in puts. 48% of all the options being done were bullish in nature. And based on this, coming from a bull standpoint, you see a consensus for it to be roughly around that $29 range by the end of this week. And as well, I know I've brought this up every single video just as more of an FYI. Thursday, market does close early, and Friday is regular hours, but Thursday and Friday, historically very low volume. So $29 in my opinion is still bullish overall. But coming from a bear standpoint, you see a consensus for it to be kind of between that $27 to $26 range for the most part. And these are all the transactions that did occur on the secondary market above $100,000. So the last 2 trading days, so we did have last Friday and yesterday, which were green days across the board, but we did have a lot of institutions actually selling based on all that. Today seems to be like 180. So institutions just have a epiphany and just buy SoFi up. I don't understand exactly why institutions do things sometimes, but big one for today, 32.8 million, and it was a buy, and you can tell that based on the bid, the ask, and the selling price. And some institution really wanted to get in because the ask at the time was 28.31. went for 28.33. So again, something to keep in mind, 12.2, 2.7, 2.7, and based on the whole numbers, whenever you see kind of the 100,000 or whatever else, that's usually larger institutions as well. On the dark pool, big one for today was 9.9 million, or sorry, 26.1 million. And then 9.9, and that was looks like all was done pretty much after hours, a lot of these larger transactions, and maybe that is why SoFi is kind of inching up a little bit. So SoFi is up 0.11% during the after hours. With it closing at 28.33, it is smack dab in the middle between this R2 and this R1. So 27.70 and then 25.77 is going to be support levels, 28.89 and then 30.82 is going to be the next strong target / resistance points. And for the rest of the week, it might be premature to actually say this, but I don't anticipate any crazy moves. The big kind of deal for this week was today with all that data. And tomorrow, we have initial jobless claims, which could move the market a little bit, but it's pretty much just now we're going to go into cruise control. So Thursday, Friday, very low volume. And then tomorrow, whatever happens, but I don't anticipate any crazy sell-off. So that might be a good kind of pre-end to the week. I know I made up a word right there, but whatever. But aside from all that, you can kind of see right here, this is that one rating by Matthew, just lowering from their rating from 29 to 28. And from their earnings, SoFi's earnings, they actually did raise it from 23 to 29. Before, back in 2023, 2024, ratings were about 14. So this analyst clearly not fully reliable, like I said, but nonetheless, on the actual chart itself, because of the price action, it was able to close above the 50-day moving average. And I remember doing a video way back here saying like, this is something to be kind of pay attention to. Breaking below the 50-day moving average is usually a big deal, which it kind of did. It dropped down to kind of 23-ish and change. But nonetheless, it did close above the 50-day moving average. In order for an actual trend to form, you do need 2 consecutive days. So tomorrow's going to be a big day for it to ideally stay above that 50. And then if so, then you're going to have kind of a nice continued push higher. So yeah, epic stuff. SoFi lives to fight another day, no matter what. It seems to be one of the kind of big stocks out there that institutions love to focus on. But looking at the market position, you see a lot more willing buyers, more around the $27 range right here. But still, nonetheless, it looks as though SoFi just needs a nice gentle push from the broader market. Let's say, I don't know, if another Fed speaker comes out and says, given all the data, like we're going to see a 25 basis point cut or potentially even more, then you could see a very nice push higher. But I think from now until December the 10th, it might be too early or too kind of short of time frame to start thinking about a 50 basis point cut. I saw a big kind of accounts on social media start putting out that idea, saying that the Feds are going to do 50. I think it's just, that's too far-fetched given the data or lack of data. So let me know your thoughts on SoFi. Did you buy the dip when it was going crazy fearful, when it was at 23.52 for the low, or did you sell? What did you do with SoFi? One final thing, as I've shared with you, on my stacked account, I did lower all the tiers. So if you are looking for some solid day trades, swing trades, pop over there. So you can kind of see that right over here. So I lowered all the prices of the tiers just for Black Friday. So sign up while you can. Link in the description below and also comments. With all that said, appreciate all of you watching.